Good afternoon, everyone. Almost said good morning, as I am in Denver currently. But welcome, everyone, to our webinar today. We will have, as always, we like for you all to introduce yourselves into the chat. Well, I'm going to get us started. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Looking at it at being 12:03. So welcome everyone to our virtual speaker series for 2025. Today's webinar is titled Struggling to Engage Families. You're not alone. And it is provided by the PA Care Partnership, which is a statewide system of care grant in association with the Office of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, better known as OMSAWS. Like I said today, a little bit earlier, Christina is over in Allegheny County, and they're having some issues over there with power fluctuations and things due to a huge storm that came through there last night. So if we do lose power, we will record the session and then send it out via email to everyone so that you will be able to watch it that way, because we don't want to, if she continuously loses power, then it would make for a very choppy presentation, and we want to spare you all that. So if Christina should lose power, that is the plan, but we're hoping that does not happen. So I'm going to pass it over to Colleen to introduce our presenter, and we'll go from there.
All right, thanks, Jamal. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have Christina with us today. She's the director of the PA Parent Family Alliance, where she leverages her extensive experience in training and development with the whole purpose of empowering families across Pennsylvania. She's a mom of 3 young adults and some managing mental health challenges. So she's combining her professional experience with personal insight to ensure that families receive guidance and resources that they need to thrive. And I'm really excited to have you hear her story and how her information can help you and potentially your clients. All right, Christina.
Thanks, Colleen. So many thanks to PA Care Partnership for inviting me to present today, and just for their support over the years. It's been really invaluable, and we're so happy anytime we could work with them to get some of the information out around the state. Like Colleen said, I'm Christina Paternoster. I'm the director of Pennsylvania Parent and Family Alliance, Parent Alliance for short. We offer one-on-one parent peer support to parents raising children with identified or suspected mental health challenges. Doesn't matter where they live in the state. There's never a cost. We don't bill insurance. We provide support across the lifespan. And in addition to our one-on-one support, we offer a whole host of educational products, all free: tip sheets, ebooks, bi-weekly podcast called This Is Not What I Was Expecting, a whole YouTube channel, so much more. In my presentation today, I'll be referring to the great work that some of our family support partners do, and many things that we have shared in various ways in tip sheets, on our podcast, things like that. Okay, so let's get going. And if everybody wants to say a prayer, whatever you feel, to the internet gods, that we can get through this, that would be great. So as we're getting started, I'd like you all to remember that you're likely to be meeting families at a very traumatic time in their life. And as human beings, we all have good times and not good times. And looking at one small slice of someone's life doesn't represent who they are, how their family is, or the love that they have for one another. And sometimes when we're having a really hard time, we need to borrow someone else's belief in us. So keep that in mind as we're going through. What gets in the way of working with families? Well, families may miss meetings, resist services, or disengage, not out of defiance, but because they're overwhelmed, they're feeling unsupported or unheard. Now, for us as professionals, realistically, families miss meetings, which throws off our day. Maybe they don't call us back, or suddenly they drop off the face of the earth. And for us as professionals, it can be really frustrating. It can waste time or other precious resources, and it really makes it hard to make progress. Now, I'm sure we've all heard of learned helplessness, but let's make sure we're on the same page with our definition. Prolonged exposure to unsolvable or unsupported challenges can lead individuals to conclude that their efforts have no impact. This learned helplessness disrupts future problem solving by reducing motivation and initiative. Even when effective solutions are later introduced, the individual may remain disengaged, unable, or unwilling to act because their prior experience has conditioned them to expect failure or futility. So, how do we move on? Well, we can start by acknowledging what's hard. Yeah, I know it's really hard to get an appointment right now. Or acknowledging when it seems like the system is rigged against them. Yeah, it's not fair that you didn't get the promotion you deserve just because you can't work occasional weekends and evenings. We all want to feel heard and understood. Acknowledging when things are unfair, hard, or unnecessarily complex helps someone know that it's not just them, that others have this problem too, and no one wants to feel like they're the only ones alone facing a challenge. It can sometimes make us feel like we're failures, and we know that that's not true. So if you're having trouble meeting with someone, get started with them. Then work alongside them for a bit, especially when they're getting to the hard part. So if you're having trouble to meeting with someone, try giving them a call. Let them know, hey, I'm in your area and I want to come meet. But first, I really need a coffee. Can I bring you one? Make it a bit of a treat, a frappuccino, a frozen Coke, whatever. It can go a long way to getting through the door. And once you get there, you can say, hey, well, I'm here. Let's make a few of those calls together. So it's that idea of doing things with people. And look for the wins and the celebrations. Don't wait for perfection to celebrate. Celebrate starting or trying. They call the doctor's office. That's great. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. As a matter of fact, over celebrating can feel a little bit patronizing. But again, acknowledging goes a long way. Problems and goals they can be big. They can take a really long time to fix or achieve. It's easy to lose hope and to not recognize the progress you've made. So try to help people see the progress they're making and reframe where they're at. And that can be something, just that little acknowledgement. I'm really glad that you called the doctor's office. I'm sorry that you had to leave a message, but it's great that you reached out. And then work with them along the way. So, to recap, to get along from learned helplessness, it's really helpful to acknowledge that something is hard, overwhelming, or confusing, get started with them, and then work alongside of them, and then celebrate the wins, all wins, especially the small ones. Some other tips for moving along: do something, anything. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the thing or the whole thing. But again, the best way is just to get started. You can encourage people to just take up a simple hobby or an activity as a way of getting started. If you haven't had a whole lot of success in life, everything can feel pretty risky. So reframe messages of failure. It didn't work yet. It didn't work this time. We'll try differently the next time. Reframe that failure. Life is not a zero-sum game. You don't get only one chance to do the thing. If it didn't work out this time, try a different way next time. The point is to teach, to help people, to encourage trying with staying on things, persistence, and trying again. Most of us think of a task as one simple thing, but for so many people, especially our neurospicy friends, it can be really overwhelming. One of the tools that we use when we're doing goal setting with families is Goblin Tools. You can Google it, Goblin Tools, nothing to download. It's a really simple task that helps break bigger tasks into little, more manageable steps. It's not necessarily written for a professional setting for the work that we do, but you're all smart people, so you'll be able to kind of adapt. One of the things that we've plugged in the past is getting your driver's license. And it's really great. At the top, you can pick your level of chili peppers. Do you need one chili pepper for just kind of some simple steps, or do you need it really neurospicy? So you pick 5 chili peppers, and it really breaks things down to get the book, find out when the test is, gather your paperwork, and it's really helpful. It's also helpful for those of us for whom things come easily to us to realize just how many steps may be involved in getting something done. So you've likely heard of this process, do for, do with, cheer on. It's something that they use in hi-fi wraparound. It's a really nice reminder for us to first model what we expect someone to do, that do for, then work alongside them as they try it and refine what they need to do. That's the do with. And then finally stick around to cheer them on. This looks really a lot, if you think about it, like those steps to help overcome learned helplessness. And when you use this, it's a really good way to build engagement. Rather than just throw a person to the wolves and tell them to get something done, you're working alongside them to help them get started. Okay, so how do you know when to do what? How do you know when it's a time to do for or do with? We tell our family support partners you need to have a purpose and intent for every interaction you have with a parent. But it's important to recognize that our lives are hectic and unpredictable, so plans need to be flexible. Sometimes you get the chance to step up and help someone out. As I was starting in this field, I had this amazing mentor who told me in our very first communication that when you do something for someone, you're denying them that opportunity to learn. And you may also be sending them a subtle message that you don't think that they're capable of learning. And that has really stuck with me over the years, okay, decades. When I'm frustrated, when I'm short on time, I'm in a hurry, it's really a good reminder for me to stop and embrace those teachable moments. When a parent's at their wits' end, it's not the time for a teachable moment, maybe unless you're talking about self-care. But over time, working with families, you're going to get a sense of when to do which. And that's exactly what happened one day when we were having a support group. This is a direct quote from one of the parents after the support group ended. They were in a support group, and the mom just shared that she had just had enough. And afterwards, she wrote to us and she said, I told them I just couldn't make one more phone call. I had talked to no less than 10 people that day and got 0 answers. And Melissa asked me if she could make some phone calls for me tomorrow and see what she could find. And the mom said she just felt like she had a teammate. Now, I wouldn't normally encourage our family support partners to make phone calls for parents, but this time Melissa definitely made the right choice. She showed the parent the value of working with her and just was able to take a little bit of a load off, touch base with mom again, kind of close that loop, tell mom what she was able to find out, and then the two of them moved forward. So again, how do you know if you should be teaching or doing? Well, check your intentions. If you're doing it just because it's easier or faster, maybe that's really the time for you to stop and think and ask yourself, what happens if you're not around? If you're doing this for the parent without them near you in any way, shape, or form, are they getting what they need to get out of that interaction? If they're not, that's exactly when you need to stop and take a moment and do it with the parent. And again, our wonderful FSP Melissa often challenges parents to change their thinking about their child's behavior. She invites them to change their thinking from they're giving me a hard time to they're having a hard time. And reframing this helps them shift their thinking into problem solving mode. How can I help my child? Now, if it works for a tired, overwhelmed parent, then it can definitely work for us as professionals. Shift the conversation from them being non compliant to they're having a hard time, and approach the interaction with compassion and curiosity. But first, I'm going to share some tips, but and I hope at the end of our time today that you walk away with at least one new thing to try. But I trust that you're able to figure out what will apply to you or work in your specific industry. And I want to take a moment and recognize that the world is hard. It's a really hard place for everyone. You've likely been asked to do more with less for so long now that it's just the norm. And I'd invite you to please take time to take care of yourself, because I'll admit that this stuff is really, really hard to do when you're feeling burnt out or overwhelmed. So don't beat yourself up if you miss something. Give yourself some grace and try again. All right, let's go. So there was a family living in an apartment in Braddock, a mom, two kids. One of the kiddos had an autism diagnosis. The building was being condemned. It was a real hazard. All of the tenants had moved but one family. Now, this family had gotten several letters, several notices. People had been to their apartment to tell them that the building was being condemned, that they had to move. They even told them, we found a temporary place for you to stay, and they promised that they'd help them find more permanent housing. The city really felt like they did everything possible to make this move easy for the family, but still the family wouldn't budge. So take a second and think of the reasons why a family could be hesitant to move. So the mayor reached out to our parent company, Allegheny Family Network, and asked for help. They sent in an FSP, a family support partner, who spent a bit of time with the parent and then reported back that the family couldn't move because they have a dog. And while this dog was not a service animal, their kiddo with autism really relied on this dog. And the temporary shelter the city had set up for this family, for all of the families, wouldn't allow animals. And none of the solutions offered to date would be flexible enough to allow the dog to come. Now, the question becomes, is this mom being difficult? Is she being non-compliant? Or was she doing what she needed to do at the end of the day for her family? Yeah, and they might be afraid of a big change. They might feel overwhelmed. Absolutely. I'm sure all of that stuff was going on. So it is a good idea to kind of, really do your best to try and put yourself in their shoes and kind of see what you can do to help out. And meeting with that parent and listening in their space, looking around, is a great way of kind of figuring out how to move a family from what we might think of as non-compliant towards being more successful. So one of the best things that you can do when it's possible is to lead with the relationship, not requirements. Before you ask someone to attend or comply, do your best to start building trust. It's always nice, if you can, to send like a follow-up meeting. Hey, it was really nice to meet with you. I'm excited to get to work with you. Offer something, no strings attached, a resource, compliment, just check in with them. Trust really is the prerequisite for engagement. It's not the reward. And again, it's not a simple thing to do. Families who've been around for a while have been through a lot of systems. Don't expect them to trust you automatically. And if they don't, it's really important that you don't take it personally. But do what you can when you can to kind of try and build those little, what John Gottman and the Gottman Institute talks about is those bids for attention and engagement. So as often as you can, if you think of something, you could shoot them a text message Or when you're meeting with them this time, refer back to something that maybe they mentioned offhand last time that really shows that you're listening and you're prepared and you're giving your time to them. So sometimes it's frustrating because you feel like you help them out and then the family doesn't follow through. And I think about a story a friend of mine shared with me. She's a social worker. She's working with a parent whose house was a mess. My friend went out and found a bunch of really nice dressers. She took all the clothes off the floor, you know, wherever they were, took them home, washed them, dried them, folded them, then took them back to the house and put them away. She goes back to the house in about 2 weeks. House was a mess again with clean and dirty clothes all over the floor. Now, I don't think that that's an unusual story. I think that that's probably typical, you know, it happens typically. One of our great FSPs, Chrissy, shares all the time that she has ADHD. And solutions that may work for other people, like neatly folding clothes away and putting them in dressers in the right kids' rooms, don't necessarily work for her busy family of 6. And in one episode of our weekly podcast, This Is Not What I Was Expecting, she shared that they have a dresser in their living room. So everything that they need to get out the door during the week is right there. You might think going to a house and, you know, there's a dresser there might seem a little odd, but you know what? It worked for them. I shared that when my kiddos were little, we had a laundry basket of socks. I banned any color socks except white. And as long as my kiddos had a sock for each foot, they were fine. They would regularly go to school and daycare in an ankle sock and a knee sock. They got out the door. Now, I'm sure my friend meant well, but dressers probably wasn't the solution that that mom needed. Let's not label her just because she has a different organizing paradigm. And I understand that it can be hard to get parents to talk, but as often as possible, start by asking parents what they know will work for them. Let them opt in their own way. When you're having your interaction with them, can you text instead of calling? We know so many families have limited minutes each month. So maybe them texting you is so much easier than giving you a call, and they can text you, you know, after hours. So maybe that works for them. Can you do an in-person visit instead of, or a virtual visit instead of in person? Ask them how they're doing things and if they work for them. Ask them how they do things in their family. You know, maybe their family, it's a cultural thing and their family has specific ways of doing them. Ask them in the beginning as often as you can, what do you need from me? And one of the things that we do with our families when they call us and they're really having a meltdown and they're overwhelmed is we ask them the simple question: what's one thing I can help you with today that would make a difference? Now, I understand that there's parameters around your work and what you're able to do, but it is still good to have a conversation. For instance, we don't work exclusively with parents by text. We explain why that is, and then we have a conversation about how we can make texting work. And more often than not, after that conversation, parents work with us. Now, if they don't want to or they can't, at least they understand, we all understand each other. And if something changes later on or in the future, they know they can reach back out to us and that, you know, they understand how we're able to help. So as often as you can get parents to talk, have that conversation. We offered a panel once on this same topic of engaging parents, and an audience member stood up and she talked about how she asked about how to deal with this non-compliant parent. She told us about this mom who had a son in placement, and he was getting um, he was getting close to 18 and wouldn't be able to stay in placement anymore. And so they were reaching out to mom and they were trying to work with mom to really talk her into taking her son back. Um, Now, over the years, like mom had even been reluctant to come to placement, to participate in therapy and work on repairing the relationship. But still, this organization, stood up and said, how can we get mom to take her kid back? One of our great FSPs, George, stood up. He's like, I'll take this question. And his first question was, where's dad? Anybody reached out to dad during this process? His point was that it was just assumed that because the child was living with the mom, the child should go back to mom. But kiddos have two parents. And it was really a good reminder to look at the whole family, to look at the unique circumstances of the family. Our assumption was, if the child had been aggressive with mom in the past, was she afraid for her own safety and for her younger children to take this now adult man child who had been threatening to her back into her house? So don't get stuck at this obvious answer of the child had lived with mom and should go back to mom. Think about who else can help. Who else should be included in the solution? One of the suggestions that George made was reach out to mom, find out about dad, and see if both mom and dad could work together to find this child a placement once he turned 18. It's a good idea to listen for what's said and for what's not said. Simple conversations about nothing can offer us a lot of information on ways you can offer help or show your value. Now think about it. We all do this in our daily lives. We're talking with a coworker and they mention something like that they said they like something or they have a problem, and we share a solution. So maybe they say like, oh, I'm having so much trouble getting my kiddo moving in the morning. And you share like a link for a countdown clock, or you share a tip that you heard about using Alexa for reminders. Your coworker mentioned your lunch looks yummy and you send them a recipe. These are the simple interactions that build that relationship. They're authentic bids for connection. And as much as you can, do that with the parent you're working with. Again, remember, we're more than the challenge we're coming to you for help with, and there's more to us beyond just being parents. So show your value and help parents understand those understood rules of doing things. There's the rules, and then there's how things actually happen. Now, we understand this because we work in systems, but parents don't always know that. And not understanding the rules causes a lot of confusion and makes people lose faith in your ability to help and in the system as a whole. So, what does that look like? Well, sometimes we have special wording to get what we need. For instance, if you're working with a family in the special education system, you know that you can't ask for the best. You have to ask for appropriate. Now, who would ever think that a parent can't ask for the best for their child? But when using that word and asking for support, it gives the schools an easy way of saying no. Share these little nuggets with your families. Not only does it show your value, but it's also really empowering for them. Another example way of showing your value is this, as an example, is here's this insurance question. Now, we know that commercial insurance doesn't pay for many of the services our children need, some of those more intensive services. And if you're working with a parent who has a mental health diagnosis or a disability diagnosis, they can be eligible for medical assistance under the rule we call PH95. You may know it as the loophole. Please don't call it that. Call it PH95. Often we'll call an office for services and, after we answer the question, what kind of insurance do you have? They simply say, oh, we don't take your insurance. And they leave it at that. Now, if you're working with a parent who can't get what they need, ask if they have medical assistance. PH95 can cover a child with a disability like ADHD, regardless of the other insurance a family may have, their income, or other factors that can disqualify them. So sharing that secret, the hidden, what Rick Lavoie calls the hidden curriculum, or those unspoken rules, is really a great way of connecting with families. Make sure they can do what they need to do. Now, I started my career in nonprofits running a family literacy program, and I learned so many things that I took for granted. For instance, one of the first families I worked with had no idea how to pack a diaper bag for a day out. You know, those extra clothes, an outfit for when it warms up in the afternoon, an outfit for when it gets cold in the evening, way more diapers than you think you're going to need, wipes, extra formula snacks, right? All that stuff. This experience really taught me to say the thing you don't think you have to say. Now, one of our FSPs, Jill, was working with a mom who, through our program where we partner with CYS in Washington County, and the mom was considered non-compliant because she missed visits with her kiddos who were in kinship care. Now, the mom was really at risk of losing her kiddos. She had a job and was trying to work as many hours as possible to meet the other requirements, which made it really hard to visit. Now, Jill got to know her and found out that the mom had no idea about FaceTime or virtual visits. It took a bit of time, but together they researched how and if mom could get an affordable upgrade for a smartphone. And then Jill showed her how to FaceTime. She practiced starting, framing herself, problem solving, and ending calls. And now mom has calls with her kiddos every day. It took a few steps. It took a little bit out of the box thinking to figure out how she can meet competing goals, and definitely that relationship building. So mom felt comfortable admitting that she couldn't do what she thought everyone else could do. And then, of course, goal setting to figure out how to get the new phone and how to learn a skill. But that long work really helped out. Okay, so here's a couple tips for having empowering interactions with families. I'm sure for many of you, this is nothing new, but again, I just said, say the thing you don't think you have to say. So I'm going to say it. Always remember that parents should really drive the bus. Help parents learn what they need to know. So all of those acronyms we use in all of our different systems, you can say to a parent, your child is entitled to FAPE, a free appropriate public education. And in order to get that, right? So you're teaching them the acronym in a respectable way that kind of spells everything out. Offer parents an opportunity to prepare for a meeting together. Can they do a brain dump where they just talk for a while and you help them write things down and then maybe organize? Always goal planning is great. One of the things that I'll say is sometimes for families, they don't use the word goal planning. They don't have goals, but they have dreams. So ask parents, what's the dream you have for your child? What's the dream you have for your family? And help them go from there. Lay ground rules for what you can and can't do. Maybe you can say, I can't give you rides to appointments, but I can help you brainstorm how to get there. And I love it when you see a typo, when you have a bunch of people looking. Okay, some more quick tips. During stressful times, we use the most primitive part of our brain. So make sure your documents are written around a 5th grade level. This isn't meant to be patronizing, but to make things easy. Channel your Italian grandma. Your grandma would probably tell you to never show up empty-handed. We have these simple folders with notepads and pens that have kind of like a little sealed envelope to keep important papers and a little slot for business cards. And we bring those to our first meeting with parents. It serves as something useful, but we're also showing up for a gift, and that can feel really welcoming. Food can get you in the door. Like I mentioned before, try bringing a coffee or a soda when you're going to meet, or meet for an initial meeting at a local coffee shop and treat them. If you're having a meeting at the school, can you meet them in the cafeteria and bring in some coffee? It's a less formal environment and can feel less threatening. Think about your environment. Is it welcoming? Going through metal detectors and having to leave your cell phone somewhere can be really intimidating. And I understand why this is necessary. And I understand that it's beyond your control. But do your best to keep in mind what happens before they get to your office or to you. Think about what the cost of working with you is. Think about how families access your services. Do they have to call a special phone number? Do they have to reach out to you at a special time? Can they get to your office by bus? Do they have to pay for parking? How flexible are you for working parents? And make sure parents know what's expected. It's not unusual to hear that parents think it's normal for a child to miss one day of school a week because they don't know the norms. So share that with them when you can. I had a parent I worked with for a really long time, amazing parent, totally dedicated, but she would always complain that she was calling people and they would never call her back. She changed her phone number like once a month. I had to explain to her that they stopped calling because they didn't have her new number. So again, say the thing you don't think you have to say. I had to say to her, keep keep your contact information updated. Reach back out. Let people know when your phone number changes. Now, I want to share some of the resources that we've put together that you can share with your parents. We have a weekly blog that comes out that really talks about tips when, when a family, that families might need. We have ebooks. Again, we have webinars, all kinds of things on our YouTube channel. You can share a blog that you think has some tips on it via text. You can print off a tip sheet and drop it off with them. We've got a great tip sheet on partners helping partners. It's again, it meets that little bid for connection that we offer to other people. You're reaching out and you're showing them that you listen and that you care. And when possible, ask. If you're noticing patterns, ask parents what's happening and make it easy for them to tell you. Can you offer an anonymous survey via text or email or, on paper, on a little postcard that they can check boxes off when they come to the office? Ask and then report back to parents as a whole that you've heard them and you're going to incorporate their suggestions moving forward. They love to hear that when they've given you the gift of their knowledge that you're going to incorporate their suggestions. Okay, so here's our contact information. And we have plenty of time to troubleshoot if you've got some questions. I think Jamal or Colleen will take those and we'll see what we could come up with together as a group.
Thank you so much, Christina. Very informative presentation. Someone asked in the chat, I was trying to get them to put it over in the Q&A. When it came to the example that you used with the parents who wouldn't move out of the house because of the dog and how much that dog meant to the child who was diagnosed with autism, would it be right to help get that family a service dog? If if you're working with that family, and I'm not sure what the process for that would be, but if you were working with a family and that situation came up, would it be right for you to get that help to get that dog to be a service dog?
Yeah, I think that that situation shows a great opportunity for some of our social workers, some of our social service workers out there. You guys are truly an innovative, creative bunch. So maybe it's a matter of, yeah, can we somehow have the animal designated as a service animal? Is there a way that we could get a special dispensation from, maybe we could find a landlord or a shelter to designate the dog as like emotional support animal instead of a service animal, which maybe has a lower bar, and maybe under the circumstances see if some rules can be massaged a little bit so that the shelter or the place where they're staying can accept the animal? Is there a family member who can keep the animal until they can get into something more permanent, but still gives them the opportunity to see the dog on a regular basis? Back in the day, I ran a domestic violence and sexual assault center, and we partnered with the local SPCA so that if someone was leaving an abusive environment, they could shelter their dog there for X number of days without and still be able to get their animal back. That might not work in this situation, but you know what? Be creative and see what you could come up with.
Thank you for answering that. If anyone has any questions for Christina, please put them in the Q&A section, and I will ask her those questions that do come in. I did want to point out that when it comes to, working with people, families, just in general, and where I think a, a good lesson from what it is that you presented to us today is that we tend to judge as people without realizing that we're judging, and thinking about the things that you said, like say the thing that you don't think you would need to say that thing. And I think because in our heads we always think, well, duh, like those are such important little tips that I think when you're working with people, we don't know what people know. We assume all the time. We make these little judgments that happen that we go throughout our day. And I think sometimes those things get us in trouble when working with people. So those tips were really the things that kind of stuck in my head when you were talking about those kind of things, because it's just something natural that we do and we don't realize that we're doing it.
I think sometimes people are afraid to say some things because they think that people might view it as being patronizing. Um, I think that you could say to somebody, I'm sure you already know this, but let me just make sure. You may have already tried this, but I just want to say it anyway, so we're sure we cover all of our bases. So, I think it's really just the way you come across to let
Mhm.
parents know that you're listening and you want to be as helpful as possible. So I just want to check the boxes to make sure we've tried everything. Have you done this? Have you done that? It's almost like when you call tech support and what's the first thing they ask you? Have you tried turning it off and turning it on?
Yeah. That's
Most of us are probably like, yeah, I've tried that, but
right.
there may be somebody who doesn't know that tip yet.
Right. It is funny that you said that, because I do find that to be the most irritating question, that when tech support is like, have you turned it on and off? Have you unplugged it? It's like, great point though. Great point.
There's probably a reason why they do that. I'm sure
Right.
there's people who say, no, I haven't tried that yet. Let me
Right.
try it.
Exactly. Exactly. Great point. So that helps me not get frustrated with tech support. Thank you. Uh, Amanda wanted to know what happens if you start to lose the hope you are sharing to the families.
I will tell you that I have those moments. Man, I have those moments myself. Um, in a, in our organization, um, everyone who works for us is a parent. From myself all the way down through to my FSPs, everything. And we rely on each other a lot. Our FSPs can talk to their supervisor, can talk to me. It doesn't matter. We make a commitment to be there for one another. I think when you start to lose hope yourself, find a friend, find someone who you could be really honest and just let them know, someone who cares. Hopefully there's someone in your life who cares about you unconditionally, who you can just be really honest with and say, I don't know how I'm going to go to work tomorrow. This is overwhelming. I've just had it. I need a break. So again, being able to talk and be heard is valuable for us as professionals, just as valuable as it is for families. And in today's day and age, it's very, very easy to get burnt out. It really is. So some things to try. There's 7 types of rest out there. We just did one of our podcasts was on creativity and how to kind of take a creative rest. And sometimes we'll all get together as a team and we kind of take like a break and we doodle, we paint, whatever. What the painting behind me, the yellow one with the Christmas tree is a something that we all did together. But think about the different kinds of rests. Sometimes we think about rest as getting a good night's sleep or a weekend of sleeping, but sometimes our body needs to actually move. And so maybe it's going for a walk, maybe it's doing that creative rest. Tell your body when you're taking a rest. I'm gonna do this art project. I'm gonna go for a run as a way of resting my mind. And by all means, always find someone that you can talk to, whether it's a professional, a therapist, whether it's a friend. We do parent peer support, and Jamal, I know that you do peer support as well. And it's one of the things that, is super important is just having someone to talk to, someone
Mhm.
who understands, but also someone who loves you unconditionally.
For sure. Um, I do encourage everyone to check out Christina's website, PA Parent and Family Alliance.org. Um, there are a plethora of resources on there for families, and lots of great tip sheets, a lot of different things that you can find on there for dealing with such things just like that. So, um,
And I will say that we do partner with organizations. We do trainings for organizations on how to work with families, personalized trainings. We consult. We partner, like in Washington County, we partner with them to provide family peer support to anyone with an open CYS case. So you can find that information on our tab. I think it's called like for organizations or partner with us. And so we'd be happy to kind of troubleshoot what's specific. I understand that every industry, every area, what's the joke? If you've seen one Pennsylvania county, you've seen one Pennsylvania county.
exactly.
So yeah, sometimes you just need to talk to someone about your specific challenge.
Mhm. Yeah. Speaking of, so Nita wanted to know. They say that I'm a CASA advocate, advocating for a 10-year-old girl who is consistently truant. The obstacle is getting the mom to cooperate more with calls, help getting her child to the bus on time, etc.
Yeah.
Another is no car to get to school if late or get to meetings, etc. Mom does not answer my text or calls. I do stop at the house unannounced and may get to talk with her then. Her past history reveals this has been going on for several years. They're looking for a magic answer, Christina. Can you help them out?
Sure. Um, in Pennsylvania, we are required before we turn anyone over to truancy court to do a student attendance improvement plan. If you're not sure, you could check out our website. We've got under resources, we have a whole section on truancy and talks more about that. But schools, student attendance improvement plans um, can be held with the child themselves, can be held with the parent. If you have a SAP program in your school, maybe someone from the SAP program, maybe a different person can reach out to the parent. It might be that good idea to kind of just give the parent a call and say, "Hey, I'm stopping by. Can I bring you a coffee? Like, let's chat about how we can be helpful, how we can help get your child to school." um the child, is there a way, so brainstorming off the top of my head, does your school district offers bus transportation from point A to point B? Does the child maybe need something, a different type of transportation, a van that meets them at the house? I'll give you, you still got to get the kiddo from the house to the van. So it is challenging. But, what we say is just keep reaching out to the parent, let the parent know that even though I'm from the school district, I'm here to help you. You can reach out to the parent by phone, by text, by a letter. Let them know you were on. You heard of a great resource. Refer the parent to us, and we will talk to the parent about different ways that they can meet that requirement of getting their child to and from school. If the child, remind me of the child's disability, Jamal.
Let's see. No disability listed.
Oh, just the
It's
fact that
that
it's
she's
tough to just
consistently
to get the
truant.
kiddo, yeah,
Yeah.
get the kiddo to school. Again, there is no magic wand to make it happen. You do the student attendance improvement plan. You invite the parent numerous times, numerous ways. You let the parent know, we really need you. We want you to come. We want to hear how we can help you help your child. You can ask the child to come to the meeting if they happen to be in school that day. But as a school team, it is within your power to figure that out. The county where I raised my kiddos in Tioga County, they had school district probation officers who go kind of knock on the door in the middle of the afternoon and find out why the kiddo wasn't in school. Hopefully, they open the door and somebody else can have a conversation with mom. It's not easy. It's really hard. I think school personnel anymore have to be social workers and therapists and magicians all together. But that's what that school's student attendance improvement plan is for, is to bring the people, the good people at school with the innovative ideas together to kind of troubleshoot. And, maybe there's a way when the child does come to school to incentivize the child to come more often. When the child comes to school, can a teacher, just make sure that they greet them at the door and kind of, hey, I'm so glad to see you. You're here. I have, I don't know, this or that. Bribe the child. Maybe the child will kind of be more likely to want to come to school. There are no magic answers, and truly, if parents don't want to engage, sometimes you do have to make that um you do have to make that call. You do have to kind of do the thing you don't want to do, call CYS, take them to truancy court. But, at the end of the day, document everything that you've done, see what works and what doesn't work, and come up with as many ideas as you can. Sorry.
Mm. I think it can be hard sometimes, especially from the parents' point of view, where they feel like they have so many different things kind of happening and going on, and people are afraid of systems. They don't like systems. A lot of different things have happened in those parents' lives when it comes to the systems that they've worked with. They haven't had positive experiences. So I would also encourage you to stay positive and try not to simply judge the parent based on what's happening currently, because a lot of things could have happened to lead her to this point. So keep trying your best to work with the parent. I would encourage you to reach out to Christina's organization, um, and see if they can help you with the contact with the parent. They are very good with working with parents. I'm sure they've had many difficult cases come across, so I'm sure this isn't anything new for them. So I urge you to keep trying your best to figure out the solutions there to help that kid. Because that's the important thing in this. So
And Nancy in the comments had some really good question or some really good input. We have a whole presentation we do on truancy, but one of the biggest issues that they have found is that children won't come to school because they don't have clean clothes. And they have actually found that if they put laundry facilities in the school, it improves school attendance. Melissa worked with a family where the daughter didn't want to go to school. Um, Melissa just happened to be at the house. As a general rule, we don't work with kiddos, but Melissa happened to be at the house. The kiddo was home and kind of confided in Melissa that she knew that her parents were having a really tough time with money, but she had had a growth spurt and her clothes didn't fit really well. And she was getting teased at school. So she was more likely to not go. That can be sometimes, something that you can kind of suss out if the kiddo comes to school and you could talk with them. The other thing that I would suggest is that the person reaching out to the parent, stopping by, doing everything they can, may be a absolutely perfect, wonderful person. But sometimes, like, when I was in the thick of raising things with my little ones and someone who would come to the house who didn't have kids or maybe looked younger, we all have those preconceived ideas about people. And sometimes, unfortunately, if you send someone, I know people don't like gray hair, but man, I get away with so much with gray hair nowadays. Um, because I look like I've been through the ringer. So sometimes that can even help. Sometimes we connect with different people. And if they don't connect with you, it's again, nothing against you.
Thank you. Thank you. So Carissa had put in the chat, and I encourage you all, if you have questions, to please put them in the Q&A because the chat be moving. I don't catch questions in there a lot, but I did catch this one from Carissa. And she would like you to talk a bit about engaging non-voluntary clients who have a negative conception of your agency or organization.
Yeah. Um, we have that challenge with CYS all the time, because the thinking people have this preconceived notion that CYS just comes to snatch your kids. And if you're a school and if the parent had a really bad um, time themselves at school. Yeah, it is really hard. So that is kind of some of those tips about think about your facility and what it's like to get into your facility. If you're like juvenile probation and you're like, oh my goodness, we're trying everything we can to kind of help get these kids on the straight and narrow and make sure they don't have a criminal record, but parents just don't want to work with us. Again, is there some place that you could meet people outside of your traditional environment, assuming it's safe for you? I do understand that. Even maybe it's meeting them beyond the boundary before they have to go through the metal detector and give away their cell phone, and kind of walk through them with that process. Explain as much as you can to families about how you work and how you can help. Can you find a family who has used your services in the past, who has had success with you, and you've been helpful? You could create like a quick video for families that you post on a YouTube channel so that it's easy for you to send out in advance of this is what it's like to work with our agency. This is how our agency can help. You are likely working against a lot of really bad press, and it's not something that's going to be super easy to overcome. But think of different ways. There's not one silver bullet. It's a matter of kind of trying a bunch of different things that work with different people. And it'll be, that's something that, you would really want to troubleshoot on a kind of personal basis, more one-on-one. But, again, think of who could be your ambassadors in the community. Can you come up with a family, a parent who has used your services, who will create that resource? with a QR code on a flyer that you mail home. Maybe somebody can watch that video. Can you create a simple one-page sheet that talks about what it's like to work with us, how we can help, some misconceptions that you might hold? There's, again, not one silver bullet, but maybe some of those will kind of chip away at things.
Yeah, for sure. So Elizabeth had a question, and this one is I'm interested to see your response to this. And I would also ask Elizabeth if you could maybe provide a little bit more context to the question. But she wanted to know, what about parents who just don't care?
We just had this conversation with our team, and we talked about how, unfortunately, you can't want it more than the parents want it sometimes. You can be one of the things that we do, one of our principles is persistence. We will stick to things like a dog with a bone, man. We're going to call, we're going to stop by if we have permission. We're going to ask the caseworker in, as an example, with our CYS program that we partner with, we'll ask the caseworker when is a hearing so we could meet the parent in court, whatever. We're going to try as much as possible. But sometimes it's just not the right time for a parent to work with you. Um, and so, I think that one of the things that you can do is give parents that choice of, okay, maybe right now isn't the time to work with us, but I'm here when you're ready. And sometimes by stepping back a little bit, you could empower the parent to know that your services aren't being forced down their throat. And so maybe at some point in time, they will come back and they will ask you for help. So sometimes it's a matter of kind of stepping away, giving them a little bit of space, and knowing that they can come when they're ready. It's not a good solution, and it is heartbreaking for the children to kind of be in a position where maybe mom or dad isn't the right fit for them right now. Um, but you do your best, you stick with it.
Yeah, and I also want to sort of point out to something and reiterate that some is reasons for everything, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the easiest things for people to do is say that they don't care, when that isn't usually the reason behind why they do what they do. There's the, you get to a point for reasons. And I always want to put people in the mind of that. We may not understand what those reasons are. And from our viewpoint, we may look at it and say that parent doesn't care. But why? It's always a reason why. So, is I would encourage everyone to sort of take a look of that when you feel that there's a parent who doesn't care. Take a look at that and understand that there's a reason why behind it. We may not understand it, we may not know what it is. That parent may not have talked to us about it, but there's a reason why the parent is acting the way that, or behaving the way that they are behaving.
So sometimes don't take it as a no period. Take it
Mhm.
as a no, comma, not now.
Right.
And also make sure that you have appropriate expectations for what you're able to do with a family. You're a temporary guest in their life, and you're not going to be able to fix everything, right? Um, Maybe the other thing that you can do is, if they don't trust your services, can you connect them with another service, have another service kind of reach out and be that bridge?
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Laura had a question. How would you suggest engaging with a parent struggling with drug addiction who does not want their addiction known to an agency, even if it already is?
Yeah, nobody wants to be known by their worst trait. And so if they feel like um, that's how they're being approached as someone with substance use disorder, someone in substance use recovery, that can be a real turnoff for people.
Mhm.
So I think that it's really good as coming to people as, like I mentioned, we are more than just parents. We are more than just the challenge that we're coming to your agency for. So is there a way that you can talk about some of the other things that are challenging without, kind of talking about uh, their addiction challenges? It's very rare that people go from everything is absolutely perfect, I have no challenges whatsoever, to addiction. There's usually that underlying challenge. Maybe it's a mental health challenge, maybe it's trauma, whatever it might be. But really kind of thinking about, again, that like what's going on and how can I help you? Is there something that I can help you with today, right now? And maybe it has nothing whatsoever to do with that substance use disorder.
Thank you. So Rebecca has a question. She does intakes for the county office. We have so many acronyms in our system. I love this. I love this question. What is the best way to break those down for families?
So I hate acronyms. Um, Dyslexia runs in my family. I've never been diagnosed with it. I don't think I have it, but I definitely have probably some tendencies. I definitely have some like left right discriminatory issues. So when I come up with an acronym, I have to like remember how it's spelled and then break it out. So it doesn't save any time for me. So one of the things that we always do when we're talking with someone is, again, if we're having a conversation with someone, we'll say to them, "Your child is entitled to FAPE. That's a free, appropriate public education," and then kind of move on with what that definition is. So we have to work within the system, and we can't have unfortunately get everyone to use the language that we like. So it is really helpful if you give parents that acronym, the letters, and then spell it out for them, and then give them that definition, and do that as often as possible whenever you have those conversations. Assume nothing, because often acronyms are different depending upon what system you go to. You're in education and the acronym one means one thing, and you're in child welfare and the acronym means something completely different. So do that as often as you can. Do your best to not speak in acronyms as often as you can. If you catch yourself slipping, get with your colleagues and call each other out. Hey, what was that FAPE again? But really do your best to talk to parents in complete sentences
You know,
while
acronyms,
teaching them what the acronym means.
yes,
It's
acronyms
empowering.
are the bane of our existence. I don't know if y'all, at the beginning of every webinar that we do, I always say the Office of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, better known as OMSAS. It's an acronym that is used throughout the state to address that particular bureau, and we fall into it, CYF, and it's you get so used to using these things, especially when you work in the field. But other people are like, what's that? You know what I mean? And most people won't ask about an acronym because they'll feel embarrassed because you used it so liberally that they'll feel like they should know it, so they won't say what's that. They'll just keep nodding along. So you want to make sure that when you're talking to families, especially, to make sure that you are breaking down acronyms. If you use the acronym in a sentence, say what that acronym is and then use the acronym after. But make sure that you are doing your best, because it's hard, especially working in this field, to not use acronyms, because some things are very lengthy, right? So thank you for that, Christina. Um, this is a beautiful name, and I am not going to try to pronounce it. Uh, I'm going to say BB wanted to know. They say that repairing relationships between the school or an organization and a family can be difficult, especially when there is a troubled past and you don't have full details of the history. Families struggle with having to repeat their story to so many different people. How do you get more information without prying and risking them pulling away?
So I think that as you get started working with a family, you ask for the information that you need initially to get started. And through your conversations, and as you're starting to help them and understand more, then you ask those more relevant questions as you're going. So many of our systems, when we first want to get started, we have to fill out this big long questionnaire about everyone who lives in our house and their ages and their birth dates and all sorts of things. We ask people for their like entire history, and we're not really paying attention. We're kind of hitting the high points. So if you can start off your interactions with families by only asking what's absolutely necessary to get started, and then kind of gradually build on getting that information, that can be helpful. I'll tell you, one of the tip sheets we've been working on, we have it on our list of our to-do list, is to help families create a history profile in their own words, what they want to share, that they can write down, and then they can kind of hand that over to different social service providers because it is really raw. I had a child who had an issue, had some challenges where they attempted to take their life. And it's still really hard for me to talk about. So if that's something that I can kind of put down in writing once and kind of share that information, that absolutely makes it so much easier for me to give that information in, in a respectful way for me. Depending upon the agency that you work for, maybe that's something too that you can help the family do, is kind of come up with what's relevant for them to share. How can they share that with people?
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Um, that is the last question in our Q&A. So we want to thank you again for a wonderfully informative presentation. Um, we would also like to remind everyone that we have a webinar coming up next week. Actually, it's May 7th, and that webinar will be My Ascension with Emma Benoit on May 7th from noon to 1:30. Emma is a wonderful presenter, and she will be talking about her experience with suicide. So, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. In the very first very first week of May is Children's Mental Health Awareness Week. So we will be having Emma come on to present to you and talk to you all about her experience. So, as always, thank you all for attending. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to email us and we will reach back out. You can also keep an eye out for the email with resources and links to the presentation to rewatch if you need to. It will also have a PDF version of the slides in there so that you'll be able to see those and connect with Christina if you so need to. So thank you again to Christina.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody, and reach out anytime. We're happy to help.
Yes. And thank you to Colleen as always, and have a great day, everyone.